Good evening, America, and welcome to your Wednesday edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting as always from Washington, D.C. Big news in town here today. New questions about Hunter Biden's potential liability when it comes to the Foreign Agent Registration Act. We now know that the law firms that were working with him back in the days of Burisma, back in the days of Ukraine, they've all been encouraged and forced and compelled to file FARA filings, acknowledging they were doing foreign agent lobbying work. The one guy who hasn't done it, the guy who was working with them, Hunter Biden. Lots of questions now surfacing in Congress, surfacing in the courts. By the way, in recent court filings, the special prosecutor pursuing 13 charges against Hunter Biden, 12 charges, said there are more that are possibly underway, that there could be more prosecutions ahead. A lot of people think this may involve foreign lobbying. We're going to have more on that at the top of the show with a great member from the House Oversight Committee. He'll be joining us in a little bit. But first, let me turn to my amazing co-host, Amanda Head, as we always do at this time of the day. Amanda, you got a lot of headlines on your radar today. What's cooking?
Oh, boy, do I. Yep. Just as you're aware, first son Hunter Biden is having a very difficult time these days in court, despite the smug mug that he's shown to the House Oversight Committee and the American people when executing his two cute little quick PR stunts before and just after the new year. Now, according to a new court filing, the Department of Justice has finally confirmed the authenticity of the very laptop owned by the first son that was left at that computer store. After all, they had matched the contents of the laptop with what they obtained from a search warrant that utilized Hunter's iCloud account. And John, I know you remember probably more than anyone else the report from the 51 intelligence officials who published a strongly worded letter telling mainstream media and the American people right before the election, impeccable timing, that the contents of Hunter's laptop was all Russian disinformation. Now, this letter was published despite the Biden family knowing it wasn't true from the very beginning. And following the issuance of this letter, Joe Biden himself, as well as the White House and members of Congress, lied to us about the authenticity of that laptop time and time again. Don't remember? Well, check out this super cut.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
This is a smear. This is classic Trump. We have 4 days left, and all of a sudden there's a laptop. And you may recall there's also talk about 4 months before there was a similar thing that somebody had, allegedly. There's overwhelming evidence that from the intelligence community that the Russians are engaged. I mean, look, my son's an honorable man.
Politico reporter that finds some of the files on there are genuine. Is the White House still going with Russian disinformation?
I think it's broadly known and widely known, Peter, that there was a broad range of Russian disinformation back in 2020.
Because it's the same, you would have to authenticate it to know it was the same contents. You have no idea. You know hard drives can be manipulated.
Are you suggesting the New York Post could participate in a conspiracy to construct the contents of the Hunter Biden laptop?
No, sir. The problem is that hard drives can be manipulated by Rudy Giuliani or Russia.
Well, what's the evidence that happened?
Well, there is actual evidence of it.
That beautiful little gift from Mike Morrell wrapped in a bow, presented as talking points for Joe Biden during that debate. We all remember that. But look, this cover-up is a symptom of the largest government censorship enterprise, I think, in U.S. history that is just now beginning to be authenticated publicly by the DOJ. And at this point, do you think that there will ever be a retraction or an apology from anyone who actually disseminated this misinformation? Well, I don't think so. I happily would invite Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Jen Psaki, Dan Goldman, any of those others to step up and do the right thing. But as for now, I'm going to send it back over to you, John, in the swamp, because if I hold my breath for that to happen, I will pass out.
You will pass out, absolutely. Well, listen, the FBI told me in 2021 they had authenticated the laptop. So the FBI knew back in 2020 that it was real. And by the way, the intelligence community knew it was real because there was an assessment done. And the IRS agents, the whistleblowers, told us that. Somebody else who knows that this is a real thing is Missouri Congressman Eric Burlison. He sits on the Oversight Committee that has brought us all of these remarkable revelations over the last year. He joins us right now. By the way, he's got a great podcast. Go check it out. Fresh Freedom. It is awesome. Go listen to that. Congressman, welcome. Good to have you on the show for the first time.
Great to see you, John and Amanda.
Yeah, very exciting. Listen, I want to start with something we broke a couple days ago. It comes from the great work that your committee has done, the Judiciary Committee. The art dealer, yes, he's quite a guy, this guy, George Burgess. And he said there's no ethics deal to keep the painting or buyers of the paintings secret. It never existed. By the way, Joe Biden knew who I was. He was calling me and meeting me. Hunter Biden demanded to know all the buyers. Just like the super clip we saw, the White House assured us there was a super top ethics agreement that blinded everybody from this. Now that we know that's not true, what's the consequence for the White House?
I think that they've got mud on their face. It looks really embarrassing that they made all these claims that are not true whatsoever. Yeah. And this art dealer coming out with the information that not only did was what he was doing with Hunter, unethical by releasing the names of the buyers to Hunter and coordinating communications between Hunter and the buyers. But he went on to say this was extremely unusual. That's not something that's done in the industry at all. Yeah. But with the Bidens, it happened most of the time. Most of the time, they wanted to know who the buyers were and communicate with them.
Amazing.
Yeah, there's so many serendipitous connections with respect to his art and with people who ended up getting policy positions. But I wanted to focus on the possible FARA violation, because you've now got this law firm that apparently met with the State Department over concerns that there was foreign lobbying taking place. But Hunter Biden, who is right at the center of this because he was sitting on the board with Burisma, did not file as a foreign agent. This is a violation that carries a pretty hefty fine, a little bit of jail time per violation. Are you confident in the task that David Weiss is executing, that he's aggressively pursuing the truth to the degree that his job dictates?
Yeah, I ask Paul Manafort if he thinks that they're pursuing it enough. Yeah.
Good point.
They're going to go after anybody who's on our side of the aisle. For doing minor things, and clearly they're ignoring Hunter on this. But I got to admit, when you've got issues like cocaine in the gun pouch that you illegally had purchased, the gun that you illegally purchased while you were using, you've probably got bigger problems on your hands than the FARA violation.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not to mention 9 charges of tax evasion. That's not going to help either his long-term outlook on life. Sir, I want to ask a little bit about what lies ahead with Hunter Biden. I think the House has made a big concession in hopes of getting the truth. And I think that benefits the American people. Is there any worry that Hunter Biden will say, I'm coming in, then he'll come in and just take the Fifth Amendment and not answer your questions? How does Congress deal with that heading into these final negotiations that might result in a date?
Yeah, I think that we fully expect him to do that. They've been playing difficult this entire time. But the fact that he's coming in is a good sign. The fact that he's willing to come in and cooperate. And I'm confident that the legal team can get some information out of him. But at the end of the day, John, we've got a lot of bank records and a lot of other documents that we've been able to get access to and that we're uncovering more and more every day.
It's amazing to see what you guys have done. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, Congressman, when I picture Hunter Biden sitting down for that deposition, I question how revealing he's going to be. I don't know if he would necessarily lie because he knows how high the stakes are, especially with an election coming up 10 months from now. Do you expect him to be forthcoming to the degree that he's not going to plead the Fifth every other question?
I don't know. I don't know what he plans to do, but it's my hope that the attorneys in the Oversight Committee, who are investigative attorneys, that I think that they've got a strategy and a path. Hopefully, I think Hunter thinks that he's a smart guy. I think that he has a lot of confidence in himself, and I hope that he's overly confident when he goes into that hearing.
That we're going to see. It's a different when you're on the receiving end of questions. It's going to be interesting to see. Congressman, you guys have put on the committee, I think, a remarkable big picture timeline. And what you see is from the time that Joe Biden's vice president to the time he runs as for president, Hunter Biden makes millions and millions and millions of dollars on foreign and sometimes questionable foreign characters. Then that spigot gets shut off, probably because I wrote in 2019 about this and it got highlighted and they strayed away from him. Then all of a sudden a new spigot turns on, something that I know you've been working on with Kevin Morris. All these Democratic donors come in. It looks like it's about $6 million just from Kevin Morris. Some of the art buyers are Democratic donors. Did they just switch bait and keep the same game going, which is people beholden to the president continuing to pay for his son's lifestyle?
Yeah, I think that they did. We can see that they saw that things were getting hot, that people were on the trail of their previous transactions. So I think they tried to pivot and were creative in this art scheme. But I have a feeling that there's probably other things that they've been doing. Whenever I was reading some of the reports and the suspicious activity reports, I saw transactions that were being sent to whole life insurance policies, which if you know much about, it could be a way to hide money and to avoid taxes, is to overly fund a whole life policy. Another thing that they could be doing is having offshore bank accounts, which I have a feeling that that's probably what they ended up doing.
Fascinating. So you have some evidence of that, right? There's some trail now with the SARS.
Yeah, there's trails on the insurance with the SARS.
Wow.
My guess is that the foreign bank accounts, it'll be very difficult to find.
Yeah, probably right.
Sounds like a good excuse for House Oversight to take a field trip down to the Bahamas. It would be a good time to do that. Speaking of funding, I wanted to talk about the budget deal. I think that Speaker Mike Johnson has been given an impossibly difficult task. I know a lot of people are criticizing him for maneuvering in a way that somewhat reflects Kevin McCarthy and the same reason that he got ousted as Speaker. But with respect to what he has proposed, he said this isn't going to be easy or fun, but we didn't come here to be everybody's friends. What do you foresee for that budget deal going forward? Because you got some agencies that are going to be shutting down, sunsetting on Friday, I think.
Yeah, it looks like by the end of this week, we're going to be passing a short-term continuing resolution, which ironically, the speaker said that he would never do again, but we're going to do that. We're going to pass 2 of them that extend us into the middle of March. And then by then, hopefully they'll come back with some form of or mechanism that they plan to fund the government. The thing that I'm worried about is that Johnson sticks to this appropriation line, this top line number that he agreed with Chuck Schumer on. Nowhere did the rest of Congress agree to these top line numbers. When the only votes that we've taken have been, first we took a vote on the Limit Save Grow Act, which had a top line number of $1.471 trillion. Right. And then later when McCarthy had the FRA, he negotiated a top line budget with the White House of a $1.59 trillion discretionary budget. But this budget goes well beyond that. And it's hard to say that that's a win in my mind. And I want our speaker to be successful. I think you're right. He's been given a bad hand. And so I think, give him some grace, let him get through this, and then start expecting that he starts being more strategic.
Yeah, I think that's something we're all looking for in America. Congressman, what a great honor to have you on. We always look forward to the great work you're doing. We're going to look at that life insurance thing. That sounds like a pretty important discovery. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Good to have the congressman on. When we come back, Senator Tommy Tuberville, oh yes, that Auburn coach that I know Amanda can't wait to talk to. He'll be next right after these messages.
Welcome back, America. As Joe Biden and his party continue to push all electric everything, the cold weather is proving to be very problematic for those who own electric vehicles. The frigid temperatures have left drivers stranded at charging stations, and I even read about one owner who had to pay more than $100 at a charging station because they had to leave their heat running while they charged their vehicle. And with this focus on electric, a lot of people are forgetting about how reliable gas-powered vehicles as well as nuclear energy actually are. But our next guest surely has not. Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville Or if you're an Auburn grad like I am, you know him better as coach. But he recently delivered a floor speech on the effectiveness of nuclear energy, and he joins us now to talk about this issue and more. Senator, welcome back to the show. I got to say, War Eagle.
Thank you, War Eagle. Glad to be on.
Good to be with you.
Good to see you, sir. All right, so we're going to dive into that floor speech on energy, and we're going to tackle the southern border crisis in just a moment. But considering you sit on the Senate Armed Services Committee, I wanted to get your reaction to this 911 phone call that was just released that was made for Secretary Lloyd Austin back at the beginning of the month. Take a listen to this.
Can I ask, can the ambulance not show up with lights and sirens? We're trying to remain a little subtle.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, usually when they turn into a residential neighborhood, they'll turn them off, but they're required by law to run with them with the main street for
Senator, I remember when this story first broke and the explanation was disseminated. I think one of the initial explanations was that the communication staffer who was supposed to communicate this to not only the American people and the media, but also the President of the United States, that person was sick at the time. This kind of makes me think that it was premeditated and that since the beginning, they were trying to keep the American people in the dark. How concerning is that to you?
Very concerning. I've been around Secretary Austin quite a bit over the last 3 years. He, by the way, is an Auburn guy also, Amanda. I think you know that. But
yes.
You know, he has been, when he travels and when he has any type of meetings, he has an entourage of dozens of people. So he has so many people around him. There's no reason that there wasn't communication to the White House, the people around him, of what's going on. We live in a dangerous time. And this, to me, is a slap in the face to his boss, Joe Biden, that didn't know for 5 days. And by the way, in those 5 days, we had been bombed 4 or 5 times in different facilities in the Middle East. And so it just goes to show you there that Joe Biden wasn't in tune to what was going on. He hadn't heard from Secretary Austin. I would think after 1 or 2 bombings of our military installations overseas that sooner or later the vice president, the president would get a little bit annoyed that Lloyd Austin had not called him or he had called Lloyd Austin. So failure to communicate is the problem here, and it just goes to show you, I don't think we have an acting president of the United States right now.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement, sir. I want to ask a little bit about that because part of the situation in the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf in that area is self-inflicted, right? We had the Houthis on the terror watch list. Joe Biden said, let's take them off. Now, I know they put it back on 3 years later, but during that time, the Houthis got richer and more armed. Iran got richer, more armed. It seems as though the crisis we faced, we sort of created ourselves with Joe Biden.
Well, again, we've been bombed over 100 times. We've had drones being shot with cruise missiles at our ships and container ships all up the Red Sea. It's a bad situation that we don't have any. Again, it goes back to just the communication from the Secretary of Defense to the President. We have no leadership of what's going on and how to handle this. So what is our game plan? Now, finally, we went in and we destroyed some buildings, or whether empty or had anybody in them or whatever, after they had done something to one of our ships last week. But I promise you, under President Trump, this wouldn't be happening. Number one, I don't think it would ever started, but had it did start, somebody would pay the price for it immediately. You don't attack the United States of America and get by with it. You have to pay the price. And again, we've got to stand up for what we believe in, stand up for our allies, the people around us. That Red Sea is very important. Stand up for Israel. But this is only going to get worse before it gets better. I think you know that, Amanda, you and John both.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And speaking of President Trump, someone who induced a lot of change at the VA, I wanted to ask you about this proposal that you have partnered with the House Veterans Affairs Chairman Mike Bost over, the No VA Resources for Illegal Aliens Act. I think that a lot of Americans can't even fathom the notion of resources that are supposed to go to our veterans for their mental health, for their physical health, for just maintaining health, that would be going to illegal immigrants. But that's not the case. I can't believe this has to be said and has to be proposed, sir.
Well, the border, as we all know, is a crisis, and it brings along a lot of other crises with it. And this is one that just affects the VA directly. The VA is the largest healthcare system in the world. We have 19 million veterans we only have 9 million that our VAs can handle. So what we did is we went out and created some community care systems for the VA, only veterans, that were used for veterans that were in rural areas that didn't have to travel a long way. But now, with the infinite wisdom of the Department of Homeland Security and our President of the United States, they've decided, hey, these illegals need health care too, which fine. I mean, they do need health care, but they don't jump in the front of the line of our veterans. And that's what they're doing. They're taking money from the VA and they're letting these illegals get in the front of the line in front of veterans all across the country. And again, the lines are just getting longer again for our veterans who we owe a great deal to. And again, it's costing money coming out of the budget of the VA. It's wrong. It shouldn't be happening. But this is how this administration treats our veterans.
It's extraordinary. Well, they're lucky that our veterans are lucky that you're taking this head on and got this legislation in place, because it's very important that we stop this right away. So I want to stay at the border for a second. One of your colleagues, Senator Lankford, obviously trying to negotiate with the Biden White House. Do you have any sense of what that border deal looks like and where you might stand on some of the concessions or concepts coming out of those negotiations?
Well, first of all, it's very complicated. Anytime you deal with the border, nothing has been really done for it up here other than the few years that President Trump was in line, because he just took the bull by the horn and said, this is what we're going to do, because you can't get Congress to do anything. Nobody can agree on anything when it comes to immigration. But the problem that we're having right now, obviously, is we're getting overrun. We've had 841,000 come in since October the 1st. We've had over 16,000 come from China. We've got huge problems. So Senator Lankford's worked hard at this. My understanding is Democrats really don't want to do anything with the border, but they're having to, because we won't give any more money to Ukraine. And unfortunately, we're even thinking about giving $100 billion more to Ukraine, who they can't win anyway, but we're throwing more money at a bad situation. But hopefully we can do something with the border, where I'm waiting to see the text. We heard today through some investigation that when President Trump was in office, he only allowed, I think it was around 5,000 a year to be paroled into the country, 5,000 illegals to be paroled, which meant that you could come in the country because of an emergency or whatever. You had to go back in a certain period of time. Joe Biden has let 840,000 a year be paroled into our country, which is devastating. And even some of the people that really want to give money to Ukraine in our caucus saying, wait a minute, this parole situation has got to be cut down. It's got to be done in this bill. If it's not, I'm not going to vote for the bill, nor will there be any money for Ukraine. So that's the situation we're in. We won't know until next week. I hear that we're going to cut down from 10,000 a day getting into our country to 5,000 a day. Well, to me, that's a non-starter. How about zero? How about we put a border wall up, protect our border, and then selectively take people in that we want to come in, not just let them come in at their will. We shouldn't be doing that. We're hurting the American people. We're hurting our country, and we're almost broke as it is, and we're going more broke every day because of what's happening at the border.
Yeah, no doubt. So we had a couple folks on the show last week. Jim Jordan, the senator from, the chairman of the House Homeland Security. They all said they support a suspension of any funding, that the only deal they'll take is suspend any funding that goes to any new illegal immigrant coming in the country. Would you support something like that?
Yeah, well, we have no choice. I mean, we're giving $40,000 and up dollars a year to every illegal that comes across the border. We can't afford to do this. We're giving tens of billions of dollars a year. John, we are borrowing the American taxpayer right now because of these politicians up here that want to spend money. We're borrowing $80,000 a second. Okay, that's $4.6 million a minute that we're borrowing and putting on the taxpayer credit card. We can't sustain this. We don't have any money. Okay, we're trying to do it where we cut back on taxes and help out the American people. It's almost impossible. The taxes are getting ready to go up. And if you vote for this Biden administration again, it is going to be disastrous. President Trump is the only one that can get this done. He can shut the border down. He can get us out of all these wars. We can start working on our debt. I don't see anybody out there right now that's even thinking about running for president that will do what President Trump can do. And that's the reason he's going to get elected. And that's the reason he won last week in Iowa like he won.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, cutting that number from 10,000 to 5,000 only tells me that they have the ability to control that number. And I'm with you. Why not make it zero? Very quickly before we go, we got about a minute left. I know that you are big on nuclear. To me, it's the cleanest, it's the most viable and practical, it's the cheapest. What can Congress do to accelerate the development of nuclear?
Well, if you just look back at what happened in the 70s when we had 3 Mile Island, we had the problem there. Really, by the way, nobody really died in that. It was a huge scare. We had 140 nuclear plants being either drawn up or under construction. We immediately stopped all 140 of them. I want you to think about this. If we would have continued on and built nuclear energy, we wouldn't even be talking about an energy problem right now. We would have so much electricity that we wouldn't be needing to talk about anything about climate or whatever. So we have a very safe way to do nuclear energy now. It's called salt thorium. We have new techniques. It takes less time to build these reactors that are very, very safe, and it costs less money. We need to get back in the nuclear business, get away from all this wind and solar. It's a big hoax. This climate problem is nothing but a money grab. We need to get back to nuclear if we're going to solve this problem. We can use gas and oil, but nuclear is also a great alternative, which is, by the way, would help our environment.
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah. So just quickly, about 30 seconds. Just are there Democrats starting to think this way?
No, not really. You know, they're if you just listen to them out in Davos at the World Economic Forum, I mean, it's all about climate change. It's all about a money grab. It's about socialism. This climate change puts us all into a realm of socialism at the end of the day. We love being a constitutional republic, and that's what we need to stay, and we're going to stay that way.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Coach, we appreciate your time tonight and the straight talk on all of these issues. We're going to have you back on again very soon. I would like to pick your brain on the end of the Nick Saban era at Alabama. That's going to have to be a conversation that'll wait for next time. We appreciate you so much, Senator. All right, everybody, John and I, we've got to take a quick commercial break, but we'll be back with Intelligence Committee member and Georgia Congressman Austin Scott, reporting from Alabama to Georgia. Sounds good. Be right back.
Welcome back, America. A lot going on in the security realm from the border to Ukraine. President Joe Biden has invited congressional leaders to discuss funding for national security, including aid for Ukraine and Israel and border security. The question is, where will that balancing act end up? Meanwhile, this meeting comes amid a Friday deadline to pass a short-term funding bill to avoid a government shutdown. Georgia Congressman Austin Scott sits on several of the most important House committees, including Intelligence and Agriculture. And he joins us now to talk about all that's going on in Washington. The final day is a very dramatic moment. Congressman, good to have you back on the show. A lot going on. I want to start with the negotiations. Senator Lankford seems to have a deal out there that would still let 5,000 illegal aliens come into the country if the reports are true. Where are things behind the scenes? What are you hearing, and where do you stand on that?
Yeah, well, one is we're not going to be pushed into a bad deal. And if we're allowing 5,000 people to come in illegally, that's not a good deal. I'm not sure that that's an accurate number. Lankford's a great guy, very interested in seeing the final language on it. But let's remember this. If Biden had not reversed what Donald Trump had done, we would not have had the flow of illegal immigrants that we've had into the country in the last 3 years. So Biden has the ability to put Remain in Mexico and other measures back in place right now to stop a lot of the flow of illegal immigration. And so he's looking for an excuse to do it so that has some protection from his left flank, because he's not, he's not the most decisive person that we've ever had as president of the United States. So he could simply go back to the Trump era policies from 3 years ago and stop at least that much illegal immigration coming into the country. And I heard Senator Tuberville on your show a little earlier. I mean, every illegal immigrant that comes into this country has got a cost to the U.S. taxpayer, and the American citizens that are out there working every day. Very unfair to them to be, putting that fiscal burden on the U.S. citizens that are out there working hard every day.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's right. Yeah, and it begs the question, why hasn't Secretary Mayorkas answered questions? He has been given chance after chance after chance, and now Homeland Security Chairman Mark Green has said, listen, please show up or at least submit a written testimony. It seems to me that he's been given way too many chances. But what are your thoughts on that? How do you handle it?
Well, I don't like this guy. I want to take you back a couple of years ago. If you remember when he accused our Border Patrol agents of whipping people who were illegally coming into the country, he knew less than 24 hours later that his accusations against those agents were flat out lies that he was telling about them. And he continued to put those agents through the ringers. And so there was a picture that was taken and the picture did not show what was actually happening on the ground. The secretary changed the context of what the Border Patrol agents were doing. Even the person who took the photograph said that Secretary Mayorkas's representation of the picture was not accurate. And this guy continued to, put those men and women through the ringer that are out there doing the best they can to do their job to protect the citizens of this country from people who are violating our laws. And so the people who are coming here illegally, they don't share our interests, they don't share our values, and the Border Patrol agents are out there doing their job. And this guy knowingly and willingly tarnished and continued to attack those agents even after he knew that his accusations were false. So that's the type of person that you're talking about here. The agents don't trust him. The American citizens can't trust him. I hope that we impeach him. I will tell you our challenge is when you have a 2-seat margin in the House of Representatives, as we have right now, it's just very hard to get the votes on the floor of the House to do anything.
Yeah, it is. It's such a narrow margin. On that front, obviously there is a need for a temporary spending deal to kick the can down the road while these issues are worked out. Will that get done before the end of the week, or are we in danger of a shutdown?
No, I think it gets done. The vast majority of us in the Republican Party will vote for this. We're going to support Speaker Johnson. I think Mike's done a good job since he's been the Speaker of the House. We've got a couple of people out there that are attacking him. That was to be expected. They attacked Boehner, they attacked McCarthy, they attacked Johnson, they attack whoever our Republican leadership is. Unfortunately, these are people inside the Republican Party. And, some of these people just a few months ago had sworn a blood oath to never vote for a continuing resolution, that now they seem to have a blood oath to only vote for a long-term continuing resolution. So he's got his challenges in dealing with people that, continue to move the football the way Lucy does in the old Charlie Brown cartoons, but he's done a good job as Speaker. He's a good man, and if given the chance, he'll be a good leader of the House of Representatives. Unfortunately, there's just a small faction of the Republican Party that's just going to continue to, honestly, John and Amanda, they're engaging in guerrilla warfare against him, just as they did against Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been incredible to watch, and something that I also think has been incredible is that since practically day one of this administration, there have been reversals on a number of things that have ultimately ended up hurting the American people. Literally day one, shutting down XL Pipeline, the revoking of land leases for oil extraction. But month one is when Joe Biden, I believe it was February something, when Joe Biden lifted the GTO designation of Ansar Allah. He has since reversed that. And, the phrase cutting off your nose to spite your face is what comes to mind when I think of these reversals of the Biden administration from Trump policies. But what does this redesignation of the Houthis as a global terrorist organization do? What does it allow us to expand if there is something?
Well, he's straddling the fence with it. I mean, he went halfway. I mean, this is what he does on every decision. The first time that they attacked, whether it was a U.S. ship or somebody who is a friend or an ally of ours, the first time they attacked a ship was the first time we should have sent a rocket in there and made sure they understood that this is not going to be accepted. And so Biden allowed this to go on and on and on and on, and then, does a halfway designation of them before, he waited months to attack them. And so the first time they sent a rocket in was the first time we should have sent a rocket back. And this is the most indecisive president that we've ever had. He's straddling the fence again. His whole administration is like this. I mean, if you look at what Mike Pompeo said, and when Mike was head of CIA and Secretary of State, we didn't have indecisiveness like this in the Trump administration. Part of it was Mike, part of it was Trump. I mean, both great guys that I certainly hope Mike will have a role to play in the Trump administration. Assuming the election goes as we expect it to. But we can't be indecisive and be the global leader from a security standpoint. I mean, the president's weak. He looks weak. The public knows it. The people around the world know it. And so they're going to continue to attack us as long as we allow it.
Yeah. You're exactly right. Sir, Taiwan's in a more difficult position than when before President Biden took over. Some of its allies peeling off it. An important election. The people of Taiwan want to resist China. That's what the election message was this past weekend. But America's commitment to Taiwan seems to be a little dubious right now. Can you tell us how important it is to support democracy in Taiwan?
Well, it is absolutely important to support democracy in Taiwan. And let me say this. Part of this gets back to corporate America. Now, I was proud of corporate America when Russia attacked Ukraine for what they did in pulling their businesses out of Russia. But we need corporate America to stop pandering to the Chinese. Now they do it, and then we buy the products inside the stores. And in many cases, you don't have a choice other than to buy something from China. But we need American industry to be bringing stuff back to America if possible, the Western Hemisphere if not possible to bring it back to America, and certainly to be doing manufacturing outside of China. If you got to be in Asia, let's go to Vietnam, let's go to the Philippines, let's go to countries that are not our enemy other than China. And so Taiwan recognizes the threat that China is, and they are in their backyard. China is no longer an aggressive economic competitor. They are an adversary. And we as the citizens of this country have got to press our retailers to buy things from places outside of China so that we have choices when we walk into the store. And then we, as the people who are selected to govern in this country, have got to be smarter about what we do. I mean, this whole thing with solar panels and electric cars and all that played right into the supply chain and the Chinese agenda. And this is all coming from the Biden administration. And so, America's better than this. We're smarter than this. And when we get a new administration, hopefully we'll be able to break some of those ties that we have that have been forced on us, not just by American retailers, but by, bad decisions being made over environmental policy at the White House.
Yeah, it's so important. And you've been sounding the siren on that for a long time, sir. I think America's caught on. We just got to get the political system to catch on now. Great to have you on, sir. Always an honor. We learned so much from you. Thanks for your time today. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. Amanda and I will be taking you down to the southern border for some more discussion about the crisis our nation faces under Joe Biden. Stick around. Laura Reese of the Heritage Foundation is coming up right after these brief messages.
Welcome back, everybody. Just hours ago, Chairman James Comer of the House Oversight Committee opened a hearing on the Biden administration's unilateral actions fueling the border crisis that continues to undermine U.S. immigration law. Meanwhile, a number of House Republicans still think that Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas should be impeached as he has failed to secure the southern border, and Mayorkas decided that he would skip out on attending his second impeachment inquiry hearing. Now, someone who knows a lot about our immigration system and worked to protect our nation from the chaos is the former acting deputy chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security, and she currently serves as the Heritage Foundation's director of the Border Security and Immigration Center. Laura Reese joins us for an in-depth border discussion right now. Laura, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
Every time we hear pieces of news about the border, I think that there's a certain view of it that it's just incompetence, that it's a bumbling administration, that nobody's really calling the shots. It's kind of mixed messaging. But the more information we get out, that you had this report yesterday from Oversight and Homeland Security from 9 senior Border Patrol agents, a lot of their security concerns highlighted in that report. And I just wanted to ask you, because there is this perception that it's incompetence, but the more and more information we get, it seems like malfeasance. It seems deliberate.
It absolutely is deliberate. It was well planned, long planned by the left, by the Biden transition before he took office. And on day one, he wasted no time. He halted the very effective Remain in Mexico program. He called for all deportations to be halted for the first 100 days. Fortunately, that was overturned by a court. He basically told CBP and Immigration and Customs Enforcement not to enforce the law. And he has provided billions of dollars to their ally NGOs or non-governmental organizations, both in the U.S. and south of the border, to help them carry out their open border agenda. And 3 years later, we are seeing it. When we're talking about over 10.2 million illegal alien encounters and known gotaways, this is clearly intentional. They've had plenty of time to course correct, and they haven't.
Yeah, there's no doubt. A little breaking news. Literally, as we're sitting here talking, the House just voted to condemn the crisis at the border and the the Biden administration's handling of the border. Condemnation's great, but it doesn't actually solve anything. It makes an expression. Laura, I want to go into the solutions because there are 3 on the table surrounding the budget negotiations. One is the Langford proposal, which, if the reporting on it is correct, would still allow 5,000 illegals a day to flow in. The second is H.R. 2, which I think everybody sees as the long-term solution. And then there's a third idea that Chairman Green on this show, Chairman Jordan on this show, Chairman Loudermilk on the show all suggested last week, which is that they just simply suspend any funding so that no money can be spent for the rest of the year on any new illegal immigrants coming in. So basically shutting it off through the budget process. Given the state that Washington is in, divided, small Republican majority, which of these has the best chance of succeeding, and what would you recommend?
Well, actually, what I would recommend is that the funding request in the White House supplemental for so-called border security be rejected out of hand. And keep in mind what Senator Langford and some other senators are negotiating over are some policy decisions or changes that take a little bit of H.R. 2, the Secure the Border Act, but put that on top of a very bad funding bill, which would continue to fund the Biden administration's open border agenda and to continue paying those NGOs that are carrying it out for them. Right now, those NGOs have burned through their money and they're begging for it. You can see it when Secretary Mayorkas is asking for more money, President Biden on the White House lawn, the Colorado Congressional District or Delegation, the NGOs themselves, they are out of money. Congress should not give them one more dollar. You don't want to then compound that of giving more money to these groups to continue our country's demise with policy concessions that would actually codify the very tools Biden is using to achieve his open border agenda. You mentioned the acceptance of 5,000 illegal alien encounters a day. Recall that former DHS Secretary Jay Johnson under President Obama said 1,000 was a bad day. There's no way that any member of Congress should just accept 5 times that amount each day. The negotiations also include having taxpayer-funded deportation defense attorneys for unaccompanied children. Now, it is very sound policy that the taxpayers are not to pay for deportation attorneys, and the left has been trying to chip away at that for decades. They always start with kids, and then they expand the benefits to other populations. That should be a non-starter. And I could go on. Now, you also mentioned the kind of the one line, no funding by some members in the House. And my understanding is that would attempt to prevent release of aliens into the U.S. out of detention. But you have to keep in mind some constitutional requirements and other court settlement existence. The Flores Agreement, which a judge has said you can't be in detention more than 20 days. The Supreme Court has also said you can't hold aliens in detention indefinitely. So I don't think there's a magic bullet there with one line saying you can't spend money to release aliens.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
Pragmatically.
I mean,
it's a good point,
yeah, and it's amazing. If you can plug it at 10,000 and you can plug it at 5,000, you can plug it at 0, but the incentive is not there. If I could just distill what you just said down to one major concern that I think a lot of Americans have. Obviously, we want funding for border security. My concern is that with the fungibility of money, that Democrats will use that more for processing and less for securing.
That's exactly right. One more dollar to this administration goes to more processing. And so Congress has to be very explicit about what money can and cannot go to. It cannot go to more processing. It needs to go to true border security and true immigration enforcement, including detentions and more deportations.
Yeah, important. What's your prediction? Where will things be when we wake up Saturday morning, Laura?
I don't foresee this Senate agreement continuing. I tend to think it's dead on arrival. Speaker Johnson has already said absolutely not. So, let's hope that he stands by that. The Secure the Border Act is a fantastic bill that would, in fact, stop illegal immigration. It plugs the holes and the loopholes that need to be closed. The House has already passed that. That should be the floor for the Senate, not the ceiling.
Right.
Good point.
Absolutely.
Good point.
I think that's exactly right. Laura, the hard work that you and your team have done, you guys get into the nitty-gritty details, and that's so important. And we're going to have you back on again very soon to pick this apart, because there's definitely more to discuss. All right, everybody. We've got to take a very quick commercial break, but when we return, we're going to be wrapping up with some more pressing news. Before we do any of that, though, Brickhouse Nutrition has partnered with my amazing co-host to bring you this exclusive offer. So check this out, and we'll see you on the other side.
Folks, you know what? Convincing myself to eat healthier this year was easy. Actually doing it, not so easy. Better nutrition is a key to health and longevity, and a healthy diet could even help you avoid health risks that run in your family. Field of Greens is my healthy superfruit and vegetable habit. It's the only fruit and vegetable product that literally promises better health at your next checkup. Your doctor will notice your improved health or your money back. Do your vitamins or green drinks promise better health? Nope. Each superfruit and vegetable in Field of Greens was doctor selected for a specific health benefit. Some support your heart, lungs, and kidneys. Others support metabolism for healthy energy and weight loss. Look, if you're resolved to get healthier in 2024, it starts with Field of Greens. I've got you 15% off your first order and free rush shipping too. Visit fieldofgreens.com and use the promo code JUSTNEWS. That's promo code JUSTNEWS at fieldofgreens.com, fieldofgreens.com. Welcome back, everybody. Just a few minutes to wrap things up for the day. What a great show, Amanda. There was one thing that just kept coming through, and it certainly came through with Coach, Senator Tuberville. The amount of resources that are being taken away from American citizens, American lawful residents, and being diverted. He focused on the VA, where we're now putting the veterans behind that. We've seen students, of course, kicked out of their schools so that illegals can have a place to stay. But the drain on the American public, not only in tax dollars, but in lost services and lost things that they're owed as citizens, really becoming an issue now. It weaved its way all through the show today. Your thoughts on that?
And it's happening across the board in so many different ways. I can't shake the image. And I know that I've mentioned this a few times, and people are probably tired of hearing it, but I can't shake the image of the Bronx mom before Thanksgiving, who was spitting mad. I mean, she had smoke coming out her ears because she wasn't able to get a turkey for Thanksgiving because there were 300 illegal immigrants in line ahead of her. So it's happening there. Here in California, January 1st, with our, $68 billion state deficit, we're in the hole here in California. And we just keep digging ourselves further in a hole because now, as of January 1st, illegal immigrants have access to Medi-Cal. So again, taxpayer funded. And then the issue with the VA, it's like, what do American citizens have to do to be put first by Democrats in this country? I know neither side is perfect, but at least with Republicans, they try to highlight the issues and they try to find solutions. And it's like we were just talking about with Congressman Burlison about the job of Speaker Johnson. He's not perfect. He's not going to be able to come to a perfect deal. But guess what? If you get something that is as conservative as Republicans want in the House and pass it out of the House, there's no way it's going to fly through the Senate. So there's got to be a way to take care of American. I don't know how I ended up on the budget deal from illegal immigration. Anyway,
well, they're tied together. I mean, that's where it is. It is. It's a budget issue, right? Tomorrow, the Republicans could say, no more money, you can't do it, and it would be over. But I don't think they're going to do that. Instead, they're negotiating 5,000 illegals a day. I mean, I literally can't believe that. It's just remarkable. And I think you brought it up. That was it Jay Johnson that said 1,000 a day is too much? Somehow the Republicans have set a new baseline of 5 times that. It's crazy.
That's right. That's right. And I want to touch on something that the Georgia congressman said on Austin Scott when we were talking about Taiwan and, the repatriation of companies back to the United States. Because I was thinking in the commercial break, Georgia is very innovative. They were one of the first southern states to bring Hollywood to Georgia. Yeah. Part of the conversation we were having with him with respect to nuclear, Georgia's doing a great job of developing nuclear within their own state. Yep. Maybe there is a place in Georgia. Maybe there is room for some type of chip development company to move into Georgia. Yeah. And Tommy Tuberville was really clear about nuclear being a real winner for Republicans in this energy and climate debate. I can't believe more people haven't seized on it. We talk about it often. It's one of our favorite topics, but it's great to see a United States senator on the case right now. It's really important. If only I was smart enough to actually understand how nuclear works. But I can talk about
You went to Auburn. Points. Of course you're smart enough. Yes, you are. Of course you are.
I wasn't in the School of Engineering, though.
Yeah. And you brought up the fact that Auburn always beat Alabama while you were there. I think you even had the coach surprised by that one.
That's right. Look, I changed my major a few times so that I could stick out with the student tickets longer. Maybe I should have stuck around a little bit longer.
That's a good game. I should have thought of that. All right, folks. Well, there's an idea for you. Stay in school, you get student tickets longer. All right. We're going to take the rest of the night off, hand it over to Grant Stitchfeld. We'll be back tomorrow night.